When you're looking for wisdom, especially when the noise gets particularly loud in women's basketball space, Elizabeth Williams is who you should hear from. So that's what we're going to do today. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. More than 340,000 of you showed up in April alone, the way we show up for you 6 days a week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, it is not just me, it is the incredible team across the board at The Next, thenexthoops.com. We have over 100 reported pieces every month. So go ahead and subscribe. $9 a month or $72 a year, and you get over 100 reported pieces, 6 podcasts a week, you name it, delivered right to your inbox. It's the coverage we know we've always needed, and it's here. Thenexthoops.com. I'm going to start here by just talking a little bit today about what's happened over the past few days, what we know about Indiana Fever, Chicago Sky, the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese dust up, and what it means, and more importantly, what it doesn't mean. And I think it's really important that we live in the gray area. And I've talked about this to you guys on the show, how important it is to live in the gray area of this moment. There is a terrible price to be paid in this country right now because of the fact that racism is present as always, more out in the open. People feel more comfortable saying things they wouldn't have said even a few years ago. And that backdrop makes what happened this weekend almost inevitable. When I say what happened this weekend, I am coming to you reserving judgment about what actually happened this weekend, what words were said, what words weren't said. The WNBA has immediately launched an investigation. People who are angry at the WNBA for not announcing the results of its investigation or how long it will take until it has completed the investigation, which will tell them how long it's taken and allow them to speak from knowledge, are attacking the league, in my mind, for the sake of attacking the league. The league needs to find this out. If we can determine that there's any evidence of people saying hateful and racist things, the privilege of buying WNBA tickets must be revoked forever. That's what needs to happen. And whether it happened or not in this moment, in this game, in this set of stands, we know this is an issue that players face just for playing in the WNBA all the time. We know that players have received hateful and racist messages and death threats. Basketball players. It hurts my heart because I know what they do and I know how much they've worked to get to the top of their profession in order to see it. Now, Alyssa Hirsch over at the Next had a great report out of Sky practice yesterday. And Rachel Bannum talked about how she tells her younger teammates, don't even look at your mentions. But that's not a real solution. I don't know what the real solution is. And I keep coming back to this idea, and it's twofold, right? And I talked about this with Elizabeth Williams, which we'll hear in a moment. I don't know how you fix this, but that's not a good reason to do nothing. It's so important that the WNBA and all of us, frankly, in this space, do all we can. Whether that's bringing facts to light, to take the temperature down, whether that is figuring out what is productive and what is helpful from a team perspective, from a lead perspective, from an arena perspective. All of these things need to be examined and thought of constantly. And so I'm glad that's happening. I think we are all better for it. And unfortunately, this will be the first test, but not the last. The season just began. And this is with us right now. So, the particulars of the play, I mean, we've handled it. Tony East wrote a terrific piece about it. It was a basketball foul, a take foul. Angel believed it should have been escalated. Caitlin did not think so. Ultimately, the referees escalated it, calling it a flagrant. And you move on. And if this were the NBA, if this were just about any other players, even in the WNBA, that's what would have happened. So I'm not sure there's much more to be said about it other than that Chicago needs to work on their defense, which clearly they do. And Alyssa Hirsch reports about that over at the Next. And the fact that that was a big win for Indiana, just as Tuesday night, that was a huge win for the Atlanta Dream, that the Atlanta Dream went and beat the Indiana Fever on a night when a lot was working for Indiana. It says a lot about how much already Carl Smestro has figured out how to utilize his parts. 91 points against that Indiana defense, a much improved Indiana defense, although Steph White postgame talked about, obviously, there's a lot more to go. This is a big deal. There's a great WNBA season right in front of us. And I will just urge you, just as I did last year, and this is what we will continue to do. We will live in the gray areas, and we will be focused on the stuff that matters. The stuff that matters. And anything that can be done to protect the players, to allow them to do the same thing, is welcome and necessary and vital. So that's where we are. I'm really glad we got to talk to Elizabeth Williams and hear from her, hear from our sponsors as well. Back with more. I'm Howard Megdal, and you're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Car Gurus. Now, look, shopping for a car should be exciting, but so often it's exhausting. Between the confusing prices and hidden fees, it can feel overwhelming. That's why I love using Car Gurus. They help you cut through the noise and show you the best deals with full confidence. With over 4 million listings, Car Guru has more new and used cars than any other major online marketplace in the United States. They verify dealers, provide real price analysis, and give you the tools and data you need to make the right choice without second guessing yourself. It's no wonder that SimilarWeb estimated traffic data shows Car Gurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. Buy or sell your next car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Go to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's cargurus.com, cargurus.com. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Skims. When I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. After all, I am often called the Kim Kardashian of WNBA media. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. Let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. Whether it's fit, comfort, or just finding the right style, Skims has changed the game. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. You can try the boxer brief. It's a 5-inch. It helps you if you work out 5 days a week like I do. You need to make sure you have underwear that doesn't feel synthetic. It was really a game changer for comfort when I get my workout done. So shop Skims for Men at skims.com/lockedonnba and check us out in Skims stores. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Skims, the official underwear partner of the NBA, WNBA, and USA Basketball. Here at Locked On Women's Basketball, delighted to be joined by Elizabeth Williams, who you can look up the stats, whether it's the offensive rebounding percentage or the defensive presence. My stat that I always like to go to first is that you led to a 100% vaccination rate and led that charge in 2020. So a leader on and off the court. Great to have the chance to chat with you. I want to start by talking about a quote you had to our Alyssa Hirsch the day that Tyler Marsh was introduced. And he talked about, but you said very specifically, when you're trying to reestablish what things will look like, I think he's great for the job. Take me through what that's looked like in practice early on this year.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me. Always appreciate it. Yeah, Tyler's just been great from the jump. I think he's done a good job of, first of all, communicating, being a great communicator, not only with us, but with the staff. And so I think we consistently feel like everybody's on the same page staff-wise. And I think that's important when you head into practice. You know, if you have breakdowns and you feel like, you know, half the team's working on something, you know it's going to be the same thing on the other half of the floor. Yeah. But I think overall he's just done a good job of establishing a culture here and a mindset of just togetherness in how we approach every single game. I don't think we're ever going to feel like we're too high or too low. So I think he's been great so far.
It's notable to me and every team you've been on where you've been cited as a leader, but obviously as you get more time in this league, it gives you an opportunity to do that in a little bit of a different way. Have you approached it any differently here in 2025?
I mean, maybe slightly, because this team has a lot of vets and a lot of experience, championship experience, just experience on different teams, people that have played, 7, 8+ years, obviously somebody like Sloot as well. So it's kind of nice to have that balance and not feel like the leadership role is just unique to me. I think we have multiple people that can speak up and have an important voice to the team.
For listeners, just a bit of context I think is important. You were signed to a contract extension last September. You were still recovering from a knee injury. There was a buy-in from the Chicago Sky to bring you back here for 2025. You've had an off-season different than your usual off-season as well. I mean, people can look and you've logged 288 WNBA games and you say, oh, that's a lot. But then, no, what's really a lot is another 200+ games overseas as well. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of take me through playing in AU this year and doing something different? How has that changed the way your body has recovered as you've come into training camp and gotten ready for the season?
Yeah, I mean, I've come in feeling a lot fresher because usually I come in straight from an overseas season, and those are just a grind. You play from essentially October, November until April. And so with AU, I was done, early March. So I really only had like 5-6 weeks of just that pure pounding of basketball. Otherwise, I was rehabbing. I was lifting. I could do like skills work and training and stuff like that. And then just even off the court, being able to travel, seeing friends and family, like all the things that I think a lot of us miss out on in the off season. So playing AU was great. I started on a minutes restriction and worked my way back. From the knee injury, and then just felt more of a rhythm playing.
And nothing now, right? No minutes restriction at all at this point?
No.
That's awesome. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
And again, like this speaks to a larger point where your leadership is significant at the union level as well, where you are part of a group that is helping to negotiate a new collective bargaining agreement. And as we've talked about in the past, part of that is giving players options rather than there being the right answer, whether it's overseas, whether it's AU or unrivaled or other things, additional opportunities in coaching as well. Do you feel like you've been able to speak from a more direct experience in those conversations, in those meetings, because of what you've gone through over the past, calendar year?
Yeah, absolutely. And just my overall experience. I mean, I think about my rookie season not playing a lot and then going overseas, and then 2016 I was most improved player, and I think part of that was the confidence I gained from playing overseas, right? So I think there are benefits to having the options, whether it's going overseas, whether it's playing in Unrivaled or AU. Like I think that's an important thing that we've been discussing in CBA negotiations, just the ability for us to still have, because our off season is so long, to have some freedom.
I would be remiss not to point out you were already north of 52% from the field, even in your rookie season. So I think it was as much opportunity as improved, but that's a philosophical debate for another time. But even within the framework of this, right, figuring out how to navigate a new CBA while you're playing in the season, how do you compartmentalize? Like, how do you, think about it in those terms? Do you set certain hours, certain times to it? What's that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, we have our calls that are scheduled. We try to schedule it when there aren't games. Usually there aren't games on like Mondays or like late Wednesday, stuff like that. And then we also have small groups, so we don't all have to be on all the calls all the time, right? And then that allows our union staff and leadership to kind of do their thing, but still hear our voices as well.
I want to get into more about what this veteran team looks like. And, it almost blows my mind to think of the idea that this is, you've been in the league since 2015, but there are, how many players who we've seen get drafted in what was a different era in the WNBA, whether it's Akia Nurse or Rachel Banham, the list goes on and on here. And so as we're here in 2025, for all the positives and all the challenges that come along with that, do you think that you guys are set up to better navigate that because you guys know what this evolution has been?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think experience is always something that's invaluable. And I think, seeing, we were talking about it in the locker room today, just even the difference in travel from a couple of years ago. And obviously the visibility is a big one that people talk about, but we've seen just the investment and where that can lead us and how the product has continued to grow. Even early on, like when we didn't have as many resources, like we've still found a way to grow it. So we're definitely looking forward, but having awareness of where we started.
Let's talk about some of the downside of that as well, which has obviously been a big part of the last few days for the Chicago Sky. And with this renewed attention, with this increased attention, renewed isn't even the word for it. So we've never seen this before. It's happening in a current moment where we're seeing a lot of hatred come along with it, a lot of difficulties. Rachel Banham told our Alyssa Hurst that she has instructed players, just don't even look at your mentions, which is probably a good idea, like anytime, but especially not right after games. Like before we get into just sort of holistically, like what's that like for you? Like, what do you do? How do you, I'll use the word compartmentalize again to like keep it at bay?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even on Twitter anymore. Like I don't even have the app on my phone anymore. I think sometimes people will send me things, like my brother might send me some stuff that he sees, or he'll ask me about something, but the app itself I don't have, because it's just like I'm already on Instagram and I already see a lot there. So part of it is just like reducing your screen time. That helps. I mean, I do think like we are people that have brands, and visibility is also important. Like it's not like I'm going to just stop posting. Like I don't want to give power to people that are negative. Like this platform is for everyone. These platforms are for everybody. So it's not anything like that, but just for the sake of not seeing too much negativity, I'm mindful of how much I look at, for sure.
Do you think that's universal? I mean, it's funny you say it that way, and it's an adjustment I've made in my own life, and I am not a target in the way that WNBA players have become targets, obviously. And that must be a hard thing, a hard transition, especially for some of the younger players. Like how do you kind of guide, navigate, and even have those conversations too?
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's tough for the younger players because they grew up on social, right? Like they grew up going to school, and that was a big part of it. I think for some of us that are a little bit older, like we've had a life without it and a life with it, and so it doesn't feel as weird to just kind of cut things off. But ultimately it's up to the individual. Like some people, they can brush it off, it's not a big deal. But generally, obviously, the things that are highly misogynistic and racist and problematic, that's where, you know, the league has to step in and put their foot down on what's not appropriate.
And I think there's two things where I feel that the rubber hits the road here, and I'm curious whether you see it this way as well. You're in the midst of a new CBA negotiation, and we're seeing No Space for Hate unveiled now. Do you feel like this is an opportunity to see what works? Because the truth is, WNBA and everyone else still feels like it's a work in progress to figure out, how do you actually limit this? How do you keep it at bay? And like you said, especially for players who deserve to be able to be in these spaces and build their own brands without being subject to it.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and it's ultimately a challenge that the league has to deal with. You know, we play our part. We compete at a high level. Yeah. We are professionals, whether it's talking to media, we're professionals, you know, around fans and stuff like that, and we do our best. But I'm glad that the league has this initiative and is stepping up and trying to do something, because it's not easy. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but it says a lot that there's something that they're seeing and trying to do something about it. So that's kind of where we stand.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And that's the idea that it can't be perfect is not a reason to not do anything. So it's important to see. I'm glad to see it. And, you know, relieved is not even the word. You know, the word is just, it feels a little overdue, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that's a different conversation.
Glad it's happening now. So take me back now to your goals for this season. You know, again, this is a veteran group. We are in a moment in the WNBA unlike anything I would argue anyone's ever seen in a professional league. We're at a moment where you signed an extension through the end of 2025. Mm-hmm. Almost no one is signed beyond the 2025 season. So in so many ways, it's building something for now, but the card table gets upended at the end of the season. So like, how do you sort of balance those two things when you think about what you guys are building here in Chicago this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think every team is pretty much in the same boat, right? Yeah. But you still want to establish the culture. You still want to establish your style of play. You still want to establish, you want people to still feel like they want to come here moving forward. So you even though things might feel temporary, they ultimately aren't, because everything you're doing now is preparing for a time where you're trying to draw free agents, where you're trying to, or keep the team that you have mostly intact too. So I'm excited about it. I don't know if, I'm just excited. I mean, I have like personal goals for myself, obviously, especially coming back from an injury. I've never really dealt with anything like that, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, but and obviously, as a longtime pro, you took my next question, which I appreciate, which is, what do those look like? You know, how do you kind of set those up for yourself in terms of individual goals? And you know, are they numerical? Like, how do you do it?
I mean, some are around just like efficiency, because, you know, you never know with a new coach and a new system, like what your minutes are going to look like. So you want to be efficient in those minutes. So that's a big one for me. And just staying aggressive offensively. I think people know what I do defensively. So just being aggressive, I think, will help me and help the team.
And in terms of the helping the team, having two young bigs like Camila Cardozo and Angel Reese, do you, even within your leadership capacity, feel like you take a special interest in being able to help them grow and develop?
Yeah, of course. I think any vets feel like pride for their young players, especially in their position, right? So I want them to do as well as possible. I want them to feel their best every time that they step on the court. And I also want them to feel confident when they're not on the court that, you know, the people coming in will also do well. So, I always take special pride in that.
Who was your vet when you started in Connecticut?
The vet that I probably learned from the most in Connecticut was Camille Little. Yeah. And I think she's coaching now.
Yeah, she is.
She was tough.
And your coach was 6'8", so good. And Donovan, God, we miss her. Last thing before we let you go, and I'm curious to get out there to play 19 minutes in the opener. Just what was going through your mind in that moment? You're stepping back out on the court. It was a long time in coming, and I'm just wondering what that moment was like for you. Yeah,
it's funny. I really didn't overthink the moment itself. I think it was after the fact that I was like, wow, I think it's pretty cool to be back at the W, playing again. And Yeah, I think I just try not to take moments for granted. Obviously, that game didn't go as anybody really anticipated or wanted, but we also have 43 more. And I think there are a lot of lessons that you learn, and being in the league this long, things change very quickly. I think it helps that the vibe is so good and positive, and that we're going to continue to stay together. And so I just take every moment on the court with gratitude.
Well, listeners, as I always say, medicine's loss was the WNBA's gain. Elizabeth Williams, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Howard.
Well, that's our show. And again, really significant wisdom out of Elizabeth Williams. So glad she's back out on the court. Can't wait to see what she does here for the Chicago Sky. We'll be back with you tomorrow. You'll get an upgrade in the host chair. Chelsea will be with you for Thursday. But as always, with you as we are 6 days a week. Again, thank you for making us your first listen every day. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're getting everything we're getting, everything we're putting out. Make sure you get our shorts live from arenas. You can get that subscribing to our YouTube channel as well. Until then, I am Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful Wednesday.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.